Homestead, and welcome to my channel. In this video, this is kind of an unplanned second part to the first video that I did, looking at these arcades and arches on temples, because I noticed something about this series of temples. These temples right here, this is the Boise, Idaho temple, and I've noticed in the church, like they usually will have like a series of temples that kind of use similar architectural designs, right? So you had a series of temples that look like this, where it has like the really big roof that looks really exaggerated. It almost looks as though it goes like all the way to the ground. One way you could maybe look at this, it's almost like a mountain in a way, you know, has kind of a mountain shape. And then you have like spires that go around it. So interesting looking temples, but the thing that's interesting to me right now about these temples is that they all seem to have this feature along the side, right? And this is interesting because if you're new to the channel, I've been doing this whole thing on the BYU Jerusalem Center, as well as the Independence LDS Visitor Center, which look like this and look like this, and seem as though they are going to become future temples. But go look at my playlist about the BYU Jerusalem Center for that. But anyway, I noticed in the last video that this started at the same time that the BYU Jerusalem Center was constructed. These happened at the same time. And so after the video, I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder how many there are, because it seems like there's quite a few that are part of this series. So I wanted to count them up. I also wanted to see where they were located, see if there was anything significant to that. And of course, it's impossible to tell if there's any significance unless, like, you know, the general authorities make a comment on this or something. But I did find at least what I think might be, at the very least, a coincidence. A couple interesting things about this. Okay, so let me just show you what I found. Okay, first we're going to look at the pictures, then we'll count them up, and then we'll look at where they're actually at. Okay, so we have the Boise, Idaho temple. In fact, let's talk about where they're located. So we got the Boise, Idaho temple right here. Okay, and you see the arcade. And then you have the Manila, Philippines temple, and definitely has an arcade. So Boise, that's in North America. And then we got Manila, Philippines, which I looked it up, and it's technically considered part of Asia, and not like Oceania or like the Pacific Islands, like that area. So this is a Southeast Asian temple. We have the Dallas temple. Of course, that's North America. We got the Taipei, Taiwan temple. That's Asia. We have Guatemala. This is South America. No, actually, well, Guatemala, that's considered Central America. But anyway, let's go on. We have the Chicago temple, North America. We have the Johannesburg, South Africa temple. And of course, that's in Africa. We have the Seoul, Korea temple. That's in Asia. We got the Lima, Peru temple. That's in South America, as well as Buenos Aires. And then we have the Frankfurt temple, which I don't know if you want to count this one or not. It doesn't have the same type of arcade like these other ones, but it does have a series of windows that are kind of like a arcade. They're like the Roman arch shape. So for my purposes, I'm just going to maybe count this one. So we have this one in Europe. And then to finish it off, not that this is part of that series, but at the same time that these are being constructed, we have the Independence, Missouri Visitor Center, which, according to Alvin R. Dyer's diary, this was meant to become a future temple, or at least constructed so that it could become a future temple and be part of the 24 temple complex. And then we have the BYU Jerusalem Center, which there's just way too much information to go over to explain how significant this building is and why I think that it'll be a future temple. Now, after Frankfurt, or arguably starting with Frankfurt, I don't know how you want to view it, but after that you have the Portland and Las Vegas temples. These are the last two temples that resemble the other ones, but these ones do not have the arcade. You can see here, this is the Portland Temple. It's square. It does have something resembling a colonnade, which is like a row of columns, even though these aren't really columns. I don't know how you'd want to call that feature, but this definitely, it does not have any arches. And then the Las Vegas Temple, it doesn't either. Okay, so of course, the thing that's interesting to me is the geography of this series of temples, because you have a number that are here in North America, you have one down here in Central America, you have a couple in South America, you have one over here in Africa, you have one over here in Germany, and then you have a few over here in Asia. There aren't any in Australia, but, you know, and I don't think that there's any like special plans for these temples, but if there was some kind of like intention behind how they were designed with the arcades on the side, if they were meant to kind of be a callback to the BYU Jerusalem Center once that becomes a temple, then you have like these different regions of the world with these temples, and these temples kind of represent these regions in a sense. I don't necessarily think that that's how it's going to be, but that's just one thought, you know. So arguably you could say it's like the Philippines temple maybe does kind of represent this set of islands over here: Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Australia, New Zealand. You have the Korean temple, and then the Taipei, Taiwan temple right here. So it's interesting. It's interesting that you basically have one kinda on every continent, except for Antarctica, of course. And then technically not on Australia, but you, like I said, you could say that maybe the Philippines would maybe represent that area. Okay, and then look at the number. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 that do have arches and arcades on the side. 11. If these are, and I doubt that they are, but I'm just kind of like, I'm imagining a little bit. If these are meant to correspond in some way with the two future capital city temples, Old Jerusalem and New Jerusalem, then you have one on every continent. You have 11, and then this would be like 13, and this would be 12, and this would be 13. Of course, there's going to be 23 more of these whenever New Jerusalem gets built, if that's still the plan. But anyway, just a thought, just a little thing. I don't know if this was intentional. I don't even know if these are meant to correspond with the BYU Jerusalem Center, but I do find it pretty coincidental that at the same time that this is constructed with very, very prominent arcades that go around the entire building, you also at the same time, which remember back then, there weren't a whole lot of temples at that point. In 1984, if you start with the Boise temple, to that point, the Boise temple was only the 27th of the church. So in those early days, I just wonder if maybe they put a lot more thought. Well, maybe not. Maybe they didn't put more thought into the architecture, but you know, they didn't know necessarily back then how quickly the church would grow, except for maybe the prophet, if it had been revealed to them. So making the decision like this on these temples, it's interesting because it's kind of odd, you know. If this doesn't correspond to the BYU Jerusalem Center and Independence Visitor Center, then what exactly is this supposed to represent here? Because you can see on this one, there are a ton of these. You know what? Maybe I will try and count it. That's so hard down at the end. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Well, 24 can be divided by 12, and you get 2. That also kind of makes you think of the 24 elders in the book of Revelation. So I guess there's different ways that you could look at the number of these arches. It's interesting that they don't go down to the ground. You'll have to let me know what do you think about these arches. If it's purely coincidental, and this has nothing to do with the BYU Jerusalem Center or Independence Visitor Center. I mean, when you make a temple, pretty much everything has symbolism in it. They're constructed that way. So what do you think that the symbolism is here? In the last video, or was it the last video? There was some video recently where someone commented about the meaning of arches. So maybe it's simply that. But yeah, I don't know. And then at nighttime, you have these lights in here that make it look as though these are like almost like portals or something that you walk into, yeah. So anyway, here's a good picture right here. This is at sunset. This is the Buenos Aires temple. This is an old picture, obviously, because since that time there's been like additional. I don't know if the temple got expanded or something like that, because it's almost like it's a 3-part temple, the way it looks nowadays. But anyway, so yeah, so I thought I would just bring that to your attention and for your consideration. I think it's interesting, not only the number, but also the geography of where you find that series of temples. Okay, so that's it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. Also make sure to share it with anyone that would be interested in this kind of thing. And I'll talk to you guys later.